So Florida said, fuck it. We got rid of all our undocumented migrants. We're going to replace them with 14-year-old kids. Yes, Florida is pushing a bill that would allow 14-year-olds to work overnight in goddamn factories to replace migrant workers that have been gone, that left because they are being deported, or they were fear being deported, or they were fear being put in ICE detention. This is some bullshit. So we get rid of the education system so we can make workers. I could have sworn Project 2025 had something like this. I could have sworn we said this shit during the election, that Trump and the Republican Party likes your children stupid so they can put them to work. The 1% does not need thinkers. They need workers. They need bodies. Hell, even goddamn Elon mama said, I need y'all to work for my son. What part of y'all? I don't understand how y'all don't see this shit. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with classism. And the 1% don't want your children educated, smart, thinking for themselves, starting their own businesses. They want their asses in those factories working to keep them rich and keep their children rich and keep their children's rich. And if this shit passes in Florida, Texas, Mississippi, and Alabama are not too far behind. Oh, let's add Oklahoma too.
Florida is facing a major crisis, one they created. After pushing for mass deportation, they suddenly realized something. The same people they wanted gone are the ones who kept the economy alive. Now, instead of fixing wages or rethinking their policies, guess what some lawmakers want to do? Bring back child labor. Yes, in 2025, we're actually having a conversation of making it easier for kids to work because adults are no longer available. It's crazy because I don't know what these people expected when they went on ahead and casted their votes against their own self-best interest on November 5th of 2024. They never thought that these same illegal immigrants that they actually want deported in their countries or out of their states are the same people that are keeping their economy alive. It kind of seems like in other countries, people are like in 2025, but in the US, it's kind of like it's going back in the 1960s. I want us to watch these videos together, guys. Every clip and every stitch that you'll be seeing on our today's episode, credits belongs to the original creators of these videos that you're seeing on your screens. If you're coming across this channel for the first time, my good name is Gracie D. Kindly consider subscribing to this channel, give this video a like, and let me know what your thoughts are on the comment section, especially if you're in Florida. Let me know if you actually really do support this craziness, because I mean, this is madness, guys. Let's dive right ahead and we'll come back with more commentary.
So unless you just woke up from a coma, you know that Trump has been making good on his promise to deport pretty much everyone, not just people who are illegal, but even people who have green cards who maybe talked bad about him in a text message, because that stuff is happening. Many of us prior to this said, hey, this is going to cause problems, and now those problems are here. For example, Trump's immigration crackdown raises questions for agriculture industry's migrant workforce. Migrants make up a lot of the agriculture, like picking of produce and so forth. One place that has a ton of that is Florida. And while Governor Ron DeSantis is really big on immigration and getting all of these people deported, he also has to deal with the fact that now there are holes that need to be filled in our workforce. But don't you worry, he has a plan. What is that plan, you may ask? Who is this otherwise untapped workforce that's now going to fill the gap left by all of these migrant workers? Well, children, of course. Florida debates lifting some child labor laws to fill jobs vacated by undocumented immigrants. His answer is children. The state's legislature on Tuesday advanced a bill that would loosen child labor laws, allowing children as young as 14 years old to work overnight shifts. If the new laws pass, teenagers would be able to work overnight jobs on school days. They are currently prevented from working earlier than 6:30 a.m. and later than 11 p.m. per state law. I mean, the research shows that starting school earlier leads to kids who don't do as well in school. If you can start a little bit later, and if you can make sure that those children have eaten something, they learn much better. But we're going to throw into the mix, they should get out of school, go home, do their homework, maybe grab some dinner, then head to their overnight job. Work graveyard shift. Finish up at, 6 a.m., run home, grab a quick shower, and then back to high school for all of that learning. Why do we say we need to import foreigners, even import them illegally, when you know teenagers used to work at these resorts? College students should be able to do this stuff, DeSantis said last week. And hey, I've had family members who are like, yeah, I was out working a full-time job at 13 years old. I had to help provide for the family because that's how things were. You know what that grandfather didn't accomplish during that time? He didn't get an education. He had like a 5th grade education. In the past 5 years, child labor law violations in the state of Florida have increased by 300%. And apparently the solution for that is, let's just get rid of the laws, so then there is no violation. Can't violate a law that doesn't exist. Let's not have people who are making a better life for themselves and contributing to our society and paying taxes that they can't even access, paying into Social Security that they can't even access that benefits everyone else. Let's not have them do the work. Let's have children.
Right now, this morning, as I'm filming this, Wednesday, March 26, 5:55 a.m., there is a bill on the table in Florida to roll back, to revisit, to rewrite child labor laws. Because you lazy fucking racist white pieces of shit that have been screaming for decades that immigrants are coming to take your jobs, that they are taking your jobs, that they are leaving you jobless. Now that the jobs are available because the immigrants have been deported, you don't want the jobs. And the only logical thing you underdeveloped brain Neanderthals can think to do is put children to work. So black people are no longer slaves, so they're not there to do the work. The immigrants that you hate so much but love to use for underpaid labor are being deported, so they're not there doing the work. And instead of getting off your lazy white racist asses, your first thought was, let's put our kids to work.
America is officially in the pits. Florida is debating whether to lift child labor laws due to a job shortage due to all of the migrants that they have rounded up and shipped out of Florida.
And see, the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
There are things like child labor laws put into place to protect children from being overworked and to provide safety for children working jobs that they should not be working on. This bill would allow workers as young as 14 years old to work overnight shifts, even on school nights, because there is a job shortage in Florida right now. If this isn't Governor DeSantis' a fuck around and find out moment, I don't know what is. This just can't be what people voted for. This can't be what you thought. Yes, this is going to be for me. He's making the country great again. To allow children to work overnight, because what kind of overnight jobs are there? Amazon, factory workers, stock rooms, children as young as 14? Florida has always been the underarm pit of America. But bro, this is fucking crazy. This is crazy.
Why Florida considering getting rid of the child labor laws or lifting the child labor laws? Because all of the jobs that the undocumented immigrants had, they can't fill them. Let me get this straight. You got rid of undocumented immigrants and now you can't find bodies to do these jobs. So your thought was, how about we make the workforce younger? We allow people as young as 14 years old to be able to work overnight. They don't, school? Who cares about school? They're making me money. Those kids don't need to get rest. They stay up all night playing video games anyway. They might as well work. That of the adults who just happen to be in the country illegally. Instead of getting those adults the proper citizenship, that way they can continue to do the work, we're just going to get rid of them and then make children do it. So we can groom them and they can become the type of people we want them to be. Right. Somebody come tell my 14-year-old that they got to work overnight on a Tuesday. You would never see it again.
So Florida thinks the solution to fill the jobs that were vacated by undocumented workers is to change the child labor laws to allow children as young as 14 to work overnight or to work as many hours on a school night. Florida, how about let's get the undocumented people back? into the jobs. Can we do that? Can we do that? That just makes sense. But also, that just goes to show that they don't give a fuck about these kids. I keep telling y'all, they do not give a fuck about these kids once they're born. Because what would possess you to allow a child to work unlimited hours on a school night when education is important? But obviously education is not important because y'all want to get rid of the damn Department of Education. But back to my point. Y'all don't care about these kids unless they're born. Y'all trying to force these people to have these kids that they do not want to have. But yet, when a kid is born, you saying fuck the kid, fuck their education, and fuck their life? Florida's going to hell.
So Florida has fucked around, and now they're finding out. And you know who's paying the price? Children. Due to the mass deportations in Florida, Florida is experiencing a major labor shortage. And in order to combat this, they are relaxing child labor laws. Not only are they relaxing child labor laws, but they're also introducing a bill that would allow companies to pay less than minimum wage. SB 918 would relax child labor laws and would allow children as young as 14 to start working overnight shifts. Now, while introducing SB 918 is bad enough and would allow children to work overnight shifts even during the week on school days, they are also introducing HB 1225. And what this does is it allows organizations and corporations to offer apprenticeship roles or internships, which would allow people to accept less than minimum wage for the job. So not only is Florida using child labor to fill this labor shortage, they're also putting in place laws and regulations to allow corporations to take advantage of the situation and to pay less than minimum wage for that labor.
It's time to speak up. So Florida passed a bill to change their child labor laws today. They changed the bill so that children as young as 14 can work more than part-time hours and can work overnight. Because apparently nobody in the Republican Party realized how much immigrants do in this country. They build our houses, they mow our lawns, they clean our resorts we want to go vacation in, they cook our food. But now that they're gone, guess what? Florida doesn't have people to do those jobs. So their solution, let's send the kids in. Good, because, they're so concerned about our kids. They are so concerned about our daughters that we had to have a whole bathroom bill, but they're going to let our daughters work overnight doing jobs that usually grown-ups did? Go love your neighbor.
Y'all, my jaw is on the floor. They are just deporting people like crazy with no plan to actually fill the voids that immigrants make in their communities. So now they're like, hey, let's replace the jobs that immigrants were working by having children work them instead. So they're going to debate proposing legislation that would allow children as young as 14 years old to work overnight shifts.
So with Florida being Florida, they're debating lifting some child labor laws to fill jobs vacated by undocumented immigrants. Because when they can't take advantage of undocumented immigrants, the next best thing, take advantage of children. And because they crack down on undocumented immigrants, they have a lot of low-wage, undesirable jobs to fill, and their solution is your kids. The state's legislature on Tuesday advanced a bill that would loosen child labor laws, allowing children as young as 14 years old to work overnight shifts. If the new laws pass, teenagers would be able to work overnight jobs on school days. They're currently prevented from working earlier than 6:30 a.m. and no later than 11 p.m. per state law. DeSantis said, why do we say we need to import foreigners, even import them illegally, when teenagers used to work at these resorts? College students should be able to do this stuff. College students can already work whatever job they want to. 14-year-olds shouldn't be working overnight shifts. Now, what would be best if they weren't using illegal workers and weren't using children, and they would be forced to actually make these jobs and better paying jobs. But the way they get around making them better paying jobs is by abusing illegal immigrants and children.
Florida said, let's put our kids to work instead of the illegal immigrants. It's not a joke, it's true. They just passed a bill saying that if your child is 14 years old and is going to, is homeschooled, that they can work overnight. They can pull a 14-hour shift now. They want to loosen the child labor laws so that they can fill the shortage on labor because of all the migrants that have left the state. It's on its way to the Senate. So now, your 14-year-old, listen, I have a 13-year-old, hard for me to make her do the dishes, let alone work a 14-hour shift next year. And those jobs that they said the migrants were taking from the American people is not doing it. So they came up with this, oh, let's make our kids work. I love Florida.
Yeah, guys, it's crazy that this is happening, and yeah, Florida has been facing labor shortages partly due to its strict immigration policies, including mass deportation. That we all seen what has been happening with the mass deportation. So many people have been deported. You also what happened to Nebraska ranchers and farmers out there, and they were out here crying for help, and people are actually suffering. So the mass deportation efforts and laws that make it harder for undocumented workers to remain in the states, and they went on ahead and voted for this. Many industries, especially agricultural, construction, and hospitality, have relied on immigration labor for decades. The same policies that they went and voted, they voted for these people to get deported because of hate and racism. Now they are suffering to a point of wanting to bring back child labor. This is crazy. Is this even allowed? Does even your constitution allow this? Like, now kids will not have to go to school. Now they have to go and work at these construction sites. They have to go and work in restaurants or at, hospitality, because most of the people that were doing this job were actually immigrants that didn't have documents. It's not all the immigrants that have been deported, because some are just hiding or staying at home and they're not showing up at work because they're scared of being deported, and maybe some of them being separated from their families. And also many companies, so many farms are actually suffering out there because they don't have the manpower. They don't have for people to work for them. And it's crazy that Florida is choosing to bring back child labor rather than fixing wages, rather than improving their working conditions in these companies. I can't even, start to think how these people are reasoning. I mean, are these even landed people? What is happening here? I mean, this 2025, since the election to now, I've seen so many things happening in the US that I thought they only happen in third world countries. Is that what you all told us? That these things can never happen in our countries, and these things only happen in third world countries. And I'm now surprised seeing this happening. Now, with fewer workers available, there are reports that Florida lawmakers are considering rolling back child labor protections to fill the gaps. This is a part of a broader trend in some US states where businesses are struggling to find workers and are pushing for relaxed child labor laws instead of improving wages and working conditions. I mean, is this even allowed? Are you even allowed to have kids out there working? Because I know if this happens and if this law is passed, or if they are like okay with this, there's some kids who will actually be out there to work, and there's some parents who will force their kids to go out there and work. And it feels like the US is actually going backwards. It's going backwards. Kids who are supposed to be in school learning, now they'll be out there working. They'll be out there working in the construction sites. And So there'll be a lot that will happen if they roll back child labor in Florida. There will be exploitation of children, and that's why they don't want to meet the standards that they can pay a United States citizen. They just want to pay the minimum wages, and that's why they would rather roll back on child labor laws than paying people or improving their work conditions. And this will be exploiting children, which will further go to weakening child labor protections, could lead to minors working in unsafe conditions with longer hours and low pay, exposing them to risk they aren't equipped to handle. Economic contradictions. Florida's policies highlight a major contradiction, pushing out immigration labor while simultaneously creating conditions that require underage workers to fill the gap. This exposes the short-sightedness of anti-immigration policies in labor-dependent industries. I mean, most of you are all out here saying that these people are only, taking advantage of our taxes. They are not supposed to be here. They're supposed to go and make their countries great. They're supposed to go and work hard in their countries. And now that you all are now suffering, you want to take your kids and work in construction sites. You want to take your kids who are supposed to be in school and work in hospitality. You want to take your kids and go work in farms and ranches. I mean, are you all okay with this? Because for a fact, I know for these same millionaires and for these same rich people that are looking to pass this law to have children out there working, they will never have their kids out there working. And some of you will be okay with it. Some will be like, I did that. I mean, I was working when I was 15. I was working when I was 17. Some people will be like, there's nothing wrong with that. And this is because they just want to keep the middle class citizens just the same as they've always. As they say, they even want to have to cut tax on millionaires. And this is where people are most saying that this new administration is just trying to continue making the rich people richer while they make the poor people poorer. Because if you now have your kid out there working in these construction sites, out there working in hospitality, out there working in farms, they don't have enough time to concentrate on their education. And when they grow to be adults, they give birth, their kids, your grandchildren, will just have the same life as your children did, because you were never there to support them, and you allowed these politicians to pass laws that actually do not protect your kids, do not protect your children, which is quite sad. This will also go on worsening working conditions, because these people, instead of them improving wages and conditions to attract adult workers, businesses will most take advantage of younger, more vulnerable workers who have fewer rights and bargaining power. They just want to keep on getting rich. And it's quite sad. Impact on education. Increased child labor could lead to higher dropout rates, as teens may be pressured to work instead of focusing on their education. But there's no way. It's quite hard for someone to be able to focus on their education while they're still working. At 15 years old, it's not easy. Maybe let me say you are 19, 20, but at 15, 16, 17, even at 20, you are still young to be able to concentrate on your education, and at the same time, you're working and earning. At the end of the day, you don't even see the useful of you going to school while you can be out there already making money, it's quite sad. Increased child labor could lead to higher dropout rates, as teens may be pressured to work instead of focusing on their education. This creates long-term economic consequences, as less educated workforce weakens future productivity and earning potential. And this is happening in the US. It's exposing hypocrisy in policy making. The institutions reveals the flaws of anti-immigration rhetoric. Many of the same policymakers who pushed for deportations are now facing the reality that the economy depends on the very workers they wanted removed, and now that is why they want your kids out there working. That is why they would rather choose to make education quite expensive, so that some of these kids, some of these families, or some of these parents don't have any option but rather to make their kids go work for them to support themselves. That is why they, introduce the new tariffs and making everything quite expensive, because this will push the middle class and people that are not that well off when it comes to financial to go out there work, including their kids, so that they are able to survive, which is quite sad, guys. And I saw this and I was like, yeah, this is crazy. And I can't even imagine people who are out there shouting always on social media, on the streets, that they wanted the country back. They wanted to make America great again. And this is the greatness that they were asking for, having kids out there working. It's crazy, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching up to this part, and until the next episode, bye.